Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's New Cyber Frontier.
Welcome to today's episode of New Cyber Frontier. As you can see, we have quite the roundtable in studio here. We have Tim Montgomery, who you know, being a host of some of our shows, Nate Moser, and Dennis Cater, and Chris Gorog, as most of you might know me already. Sometimes I forget to tell you who I am. Well, welcome today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So these two also do their own podcast. So we have the Smalls, right? Is that the name of the podcast?
No,
Smalls
the
Cast
Smalls
podcast.
Cast
The Smalls Cast. So very little they talk about.
That's right. Small content. 30 seconds long each time.
Yeah,
Great things
so,
come in small packages, though. So sounds like
there's all kinds of puns we can think about. We'll stay away from the obvious
No,
ones.
just kidding.
you can go on for that.
We'll talk about circles again.
No.
Hey, so
Talk about that. What's up with the podcast?
So let me start with the Smalls because most people may not know about that. So we have we run a nonprofit organization called the Colorado Small Government Contractor Collaborative, and that's a lot of words to say. So, AKA the Smalls.
I like that better.
Yeah. So what we started out doing was I used to meet. I'm a business development guy for a government contractor here in town, and we were meeting with several of the other government contractors, and they went, man, wouldn't it be good if we could get together like on a regular basis more often? And I said, yeah, well, why don't we do that? And they were like, well, what? I said, get together more often and have a meeting. And they're like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. So I said, well, let's start doing that. So we started, and it started with just a couple of us and went from, 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 to 40. Wow. It just kept growing.
Yeah.
And so we started that. And then one of the guys came down from Aurora and said, hey, could we start having a meeting up in Aurora? And I'm like, sure, why not? So we started having meetings up in Aurora. And then Nate asked me one day, hey, can we do a meeting down in Pueblo? Like, sure, let's do one in Pueblo. And so we started having meetings in Pueblo. And it's kind of just mushroomed from there. We set up a website a couple of years back. We just revamped that here over the COVID. We revamped our website. And then we started actually doing our podcast. We talked about it, Nate and I, for a while, like, hey, we should do something else. Let's talk about doing some other kind of forum.
Yeah.
So we had monthly meetings in all 3 locations. We started doing quarterly events with government primes.
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin and Northrop were the 2 that we got done before the COVID. And then we were going to start doing an annual conference with all the small business offices here in that represented all the government agencies, well, at least the DoD agencies here in Colorado. What else happened kind of as we started doing this evolution of things was Nate and I quickly decided that it wasn't just about the small government contractors getting together, it's the ecosystem. Because the smalls can't really live without the large companies. The large need the smalls. We also need support services. So we need, lawyers, accountants, IT folks. If you're starting a small government contractor, you need all those kind of services. Sorry about that. And then also you need, if you're starting a government contracting company and you don't have any idea how to do it, you need some of those other services like the procurement technical assistance centers, the small business development centers, those kind of organizations. So we started partnering with them. And then we added it's probably 2 years ago now, right? The manufacturing piece.
Yes, manufacturing about 2 years ago.
I'll let you talk in a minute here. I'm going on.
That's
too
okay.
much caffeine.
I'm used to it on our podcast.
So we
You're right, just the face.
Whatever.
He just smiled.
I'll get my turn.
He's a good looking guy.
He brings the looks to the operation. Gotcha.
So we started adding manufacturers because if you're going to make a product, you need people to build it, at least the prototypes for it. So we started adding manufacturing, and so all that it's all just kind of mushroomed over the last. We started in 17 technically, October 2017. So we're coming up on our 4-year anniversary, I guess. And so it's just been it's been good. It's been a good ride.
Can I talk now?
You can.
Okay. So now to fast forward into the podcast realm.
Yes.
So we originally started talking after we became an actual nonprofit, a 501c6. We started saying, well, okay, what are we also going to offer? This is pre-COVID. So we started talking, well, let's maybe do vlogs, blogs on the website. So the website is thesmalls.org, and everything is located out there, all of our contact information. But we were like, well, at these events, let's just buy a little bit of equipment just to record 4K video, grab somebody out of the crowd and talk about their company, right? For like a 5 to 8 minute little vlog, exactly.
30 seconds.
Whatever there is. Yeah, he kept saying lower and lower. But
the 10 miles.
Exactly. So we were working that. First, I believe the first time I came here was February of last year.
You've
I was
been
here.
on,
I recorded.
don't know how long ago, but
February of last year, which I'm pretty sure I had COVID at the time because I kept coughing. That was before COVID was a thing, though.
I wasn't feeling too well after that myself.
So I apologize if someone that gave me COVID or something.
Right
but
that was before even the hype about it.
that was before.
Kicked it off.
It was before, so it was probably me.
Yeah, you brought it from where to?
I don't know.
North Dakota.
Wherever I came from, man. So in the meantime, so after we'd record the podcast, we had decided, well, let's start doing more and more podcasts. So we, instead of buying our own equipment, we started having studios in town here,
Century,
Pueblo,
C21, Library C21's recording studio.
all different locations where we had professional studios where we were going to record at.
Awesome.
The very first podcast we had booked was U.S. Space Force and Space Force Association. And that was March 13th of last year, Friday the 13th. And that was
a good day to start.
The podcast was supposed to, the
That's
podcast
what he's
was
getting to is it did.
the podcast was supposed to be on Monday the 16th, that first day. The 13th at noon, I get the email from the studio saying, hey, due to COVID, this new COVID thing, we're shutting down. So we're like, well, what are we going to do? I want to keep going. So I literally focused on going on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist,
eBay.
That entire weekend, eBay. Meeting people in I remember there was this one lady I met. I needed microphones just to get this thing off.
Yeah.
So I said, we're still going to do this, Dennis. Dennis is like, yeah, he wasn't a big fan of the podcast thing at first anyway. He's like, nobody listens to podcasts. I said, well, you don't obviously know anything. So, because everybody listens to podcasts nowadays. So
Well, it really exploded now, right? I mean,
it really has.
COVID has really exploded.
Certainly got more time on our hands. Do more things,
So I bought a recorder from some dude out of a parking lot in Fountain, I think. I picked up a really nice recorder. It was an old one, but and then I picked up 2 microphones from a lady driving a white Lexus in Southside Walmart in Pueblo. One was a My Little Pony karaoke microphone, and the other one was an old 1974 Shure microphone.
And we love the My Little Pony. So you know, we still use it.
That's good followers.
We recorded on time, but I had to pull all this crap together.
We're bronies, by the way.
I literally recorded that first podcast. I took a picture in the middle of the podcast.
Talk about doing that. So.
Yeah, exactly.
She comes up with a brown paper bag. He slips her $100.
It's not
It was $10 for those 2 microphones. Thank you very much. I'm like,
My Little Pony microphone was definitely hot.
Let me see that.
She just stole it from Walmart a few minutes prior.
There's a kid crying somewhere.
Probably her kid. I don't know.
It's in the back crying.
Mama needs $10. I'm taking the microphone. So, so that first, if you go on our website, you'll see under our podcast page, I took a picture of us recording that very first podcast. I did not use the My Little Pony. I wish I would have now, but I actually used the old Shure microphone.
With rubber bands.
I literally hung it from a camera tripod, from the handle of the camera tripod, and with rubber bands is how I did the very first podcast. So from there, we have now exploded on the podcast. I checked again the other day. We're now 42 different states listening to us on a weekly basis in 15 different countries.
Wow.
Awesome.
On a weekly basis. So we're not quite at the 40 million listens every single week, but we'll get there. as soon as we can get Joe Rogan on the show for us.
Rogaine.
Joe, listen to us.
Rogaine.
Yeah, apparently. If you keep doing that, he's not going to come on.
Sure.
That's recorded now.
Just kidding, Joe.
So,
Sure, I'm not the
and
first.
by the way, so you did use my full name. Now that I have, we do have our own podcast. I do have the radio personality of Just Nate. All right, so
Just Nate.
It's
So
just
there's
Nate.
another story behind that too. So we're doing this interview. We're doing a webinar with some other company, and they have foreign people come on it once in a while. So she sees this thing on there, Just Nate. So she goes, "Oh, hello, Just." And she's talking, and hey, Just, and we're looking at each other like, "What the heck is Just?" And she goes, "Just, you have anything to say?" And he's like, "Oh, do you mean just Nate? I thought you were French. I'm sorry." So now we joke around. He's just Nate.
All right, well,
Awesome.
let's take a break here. We have some sponsor spots to put in. We'll be right back.
Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
Welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. Doing some joking on the break. We have
wasn't jokes,
Just
that was
Nate.
music.
And do you
Whatever
got
you
anything
wanna call
shorter?
I don't. I just D or Dennis. Yeah.
DK.
Yeah, DK.
D, okay.
Just D.
D, and we have
The big D. Heavy
T.
D. I go by
Big
Heavy
T.
D.
Just T.
Just T.
So my-
We're all French today.
I sponsor cadets, and the one cadet gave me Heavy D. I'm Heavy D now.
I like that. That's right.
Yeah, Heavy D.
Drill instructor D.
So let's. We do need to talk about cybersecurity.
Maybe we can get.
We get there.
this is a 3-hour episode, right?
We'll
see.
we'll fit it in.
Max is back there like, I'm not doing the production on a 3-hour episode.
So let's do talk cyber because that is important, particularly in this community. So as I mentioned, we've got about 500 corporate members in our group now, and as I stated, we're in the 3 different city groups. We also are starting to look at doing something maybe out in, if you guys would like to join us, Grand Junction, big Grand J, and then down
Kick off out in Grand J.
we do want to do something out there.
Durango, somewhere on
And
there.
Durango is the other one. We were asked before the vid hit, we were asked to actually to do some stuff out there, and then stuff kind of fell away, but we would like to kind of refocus on that. So anyways, cybersecurity, particularly in Colorado Springs with rebranding, I think they're going by Cyber Mountain now, right? Is that the new rebrand?
Space Mountain.
No, it's Cyber Mountain, I thought.
I don't think you can use
Cyber
Space Mountain.
Iron?
That's probably a Disney thing.
Anyways,
We're gonna get
so
sued over that
the
one.
city's trying to make a
this
big
guy's in
push.
copyright, so
We just had the National Cyber Center on our podcast and the Space ISAC. They're continuing to make a big push here, but cyber security in the DoD space. Now, we've the smalls has gone beyond just DoD. We're government contracting, right? So
you're picking up
we-
basically everybody.
yeah, but
All
I mean,
agencies,
The entire
Yes.
ecosystem. We're
Yeah.
even doing companies that don't have government work right now. I mean,
well, the other, so he brought in this. I'll tell you something else really funny. So he goes, "Hey Dennis, I got this company for a podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, what is it?" He goes, "It's a water bottle company." I'm like, "How's that? What's that got to do with government contracting?"
Is it like the good metal ones?
No.
No.
Oh, so a model.
MODL
Model Outdoors.
outdoors.com.
Really cool. They are the Swiss Army knife.
Water's first multi-tool.
Yeah, Water's first Army knife.
I'll have to check it out.
Whatever you say.
Multi-tool.
Multi-tool. Water's first multi-tool. Really cool water bottle. We won't go into it. But I'm like, what's this guy do with government contracting? He goes, well, they're selling it to the government, to the Army and stuff. I'm like, oh, all right. So anyways, it was really good. It was a good podcast too, by the way. But so cybersecurity, that obviously permeates not just the DoD. It's all of the service. It's all of the government, right? And so it's become, as you guys know, more and more of an issue. We were talking before we got on today about the gas company getting hacked and all that. But from a DoD perspective, if you look at infrastructure, if you look at all the weapon systems, and then just our general admin systems, everything right is cyber related now. And it is. I will tell you, it is. We talk about baked in or adding on. Really now everything that we're doing, it's all baked into the systems.
I was going to
So-
say that's one thing I see with the government contracting, all the RFPs, CIBRs, whatever.
Well,
Cybersecurity is a piece of it.
yeah,
So, like I have a cybersecurity startup, and we're always looking to partner with somebody on a little piece of a project
right.
because of that. But it's like, how would they then transition, or why isn't it happening that they focus on cyber as here's an initiative we want instead of being a bolt on?
I think the reason for that is I used to build very large DoD systems, and of course at that time that was die-cat package days and stuff like that. So cyber was kind of the afterthought. That's when cyber first kind of, I'll say,
Cyber's always been there. But we
Cyber's
didn't
been there,
call it
but
that.
DoD, when they really first focused on, now we need to have a die-cat package and an ATO or authority to operate.
Afterthought.
Yeah, it was kind of an afterthought,
Yeah, it
bolt
was like,
on.
we got the system now. Let's do the cyber.
But the
Right.
the problem still is that I don't think people they still don't want to pay for it, right? I mean, that's what it always boils down to.
I think
If you
it
want to
is
boil
about
that in, you want me to run or push the cyber requirements down to my subcontractors, that are commercial contractors. They'll be like, okay, well, pay me an extra $1 million because we're not doing that. It's a commercial product. Our product is on the Walmart shelf or something like that. We don't care about cybersecurity, right?
Product, yeah.
It's a cost product. Now, if you want to develop your own product, we'll definitely do that.
We'll
but
talk
it's gonna
about
cost more
integrating
money.
it in later. Yeah.
But usually the DoD customers that I've worked with they can't understand, well, why would it cost more? It should just be part of it. Well, the commercial side hasn't caught up. So especially if you're using commercial companies, which
So you're taking something that's off the shelf and saying, well, doesn't have cyber in it, so you got to get with a company that does that, put it together. And
yeah,
then
it could be
costs
something
more.
simple. I had I was working on a radar system where, the way that the radar control box talked with the core and the operator was FTP, and we had to shut that down. But by shutting it down, we no longer had control of the control box. And the government's like, well, I don't understand why they developed that way. I'm like, well, because it's free. That's the way it was designed. I can't tell a company change your entire design without coming to the table with the money to say,
The newer systems, though, I would say it's all the new stuff that's being built. It's thought of from the get go. But we have so many legacy systems out
That's-
there.
yeah.
And if you think about it, like I was in the Army, so say we just want to change the radio. Well, how many radios in the Army? There's millions of people,
Right.
and if you say it's 500,000 systems, well, that's a lot, and it's all over the planet,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
this stuff is
The logistics.
it's not
nightmare.
easy. Yeah,
And they don't
the
buy cybersecurity; they buy the radio.
they buy the radio.
yeah,
Yeah.
cybersecurity is not a separate thing usually, and we're even seeing that now. Every contract used to have kind of like a cyber. Well, in the past 10 years, the contracts used to have a separate cybersecurity entity part of it, but
Annex,
now they're pulling cybersecurity out into its own division, kind of, and doing all those contracts under one big cyber contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the TSA just recently did that. That's exactly what happened to them over
So-
the past 18 months.
Yeah,
And that's what we've been looking at for years: is cybersecurity as almost like a spider web of how it connects to everything,
Yeah.
and then you could sell the cybersecurity separately.
Well, and even that, when you talk about that, so I used to work for the Missile Defense Agency, and you were upgrading all the systems. There was 132 sites globally, and to
Yeah.
bring everybody up to the same standards, that's lots of bucks. to
Well,
do.
my understanding is that the on this latest hack that just happened, right, on the pipeline, it was a software as a service that introduced the malware called DarkSide, right? Which you could say that CMMC or cybersecurity controls aren't going to help protect against that. But what it boils down to is I don't think they were updating their code every week or whatever, their software. They weren't pushing patches out to their systems, so that's how it got in.
Well, on the infrastructure side, they're not. I would say that's a big hole right now. In manufacturing and infrastructure, I think that's where the soft spots are. People haven't really thought about that. Manufacturing, I mean, look at a manufacturing plant, all the pieces in there too, right? From the robots to the machinery to the computers. There's a whole big space there where they're moving now, but it's also an area that didn't get a lot of attention initially. And he just brought up CMMC. So in the DoD space, about a year ago, I guess maybe two now, the Office of Secretary of Defense put out a mandate that we're all going to start a cyber maturity model certification. So all DoD contractors have to be CMMC, so CMM certified now, and it will be put in all your contracts. So if you are not corporately at a certain level of cyber maturity, you cannot even bid on a contract. So they're trying to. So they've determined that 80% of all intelligence and property IP theft is being done at the government contractor facilities, for instance. And so now what they've decided is you have to get your in-house IT
Organizations.
up to standard, right? Not let alone the programs you're supporting the military on, but actually your own internal stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a big movement.
Well, let's take a break here from our spouse. We'll be right back. But I want to talk about that some more. Welcome back, the new Cyber Frontier. On today, talking with the Smalls team. We'll just leave it at that this time.
Team Smalls. I like
Team
it. We're gonna get
Smalls.
t-shirts.
I told you that's what I want to
Heavy
say.
D and the Team Smalls.
Big T and the Team Smalls.
There you go.
I've been watching Swamp People. You guys ever seen Swamp People? We're binge watching it, man.
Occasionally. I'm not a binging on that topic. I'm sorry.
Dude, it's about alligator hunting in Louisiana.
Yeah, we just learned something about you.
It's awesome. And they got this guy riding. They got this guy riding in one of those. What do they call that with the big windmill?
Fan boat.
Fan boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Something.
his name's Big T, and he's riding in the fan boat. Big T, going to get them alligators.
Awesome.
We're still getting hate mail.
Yeah, so CMMI or C2M2, whatever we're calling it.
CMMC.
But
CMMC.
all right, C2M2, it's C
No, CMMC.
Cybersecurity
Cyber Maturity
Maturity
Model.
Model. C2M2. That one.
No.
Cyber Maturity Model Certification, CMMC.
Yeah.
It's the successor to NIST 800-171.
That's right.
And it is like CMMI for software, which is their certification for software development. They have standards. So CMMC has 5 levels. And so based on the type of size of your company and the type of work you're going to do, you have to meet certain levels. So
5 levels.
So like
So I've heard this all before. We'll
Okay.
just go back
There
to
you go.
this point, right? There was this NIST 171. There was a RMF framework.
Yep.
Right.
There was DICAP. There's been a sequential string.
no, so the big
So
difference.
this is different.
This
Now,
is,
I
well,
hear
it is
everybody
different.
saying
Now,
that.
here's why it's different.
Okay.
So on the NIST piece and on the former efforts they were doing, you just had to have a plan in place to show you were making efforts to becoming certified
Or
at a certain
meet all the
requirements.
Your
requirements.
3-year revolution.
Yeah, but you just kept on having to show.
Wham is what they
Yeah,
call it.
the poem list just kept getting longer and just staying.
Well, then it
know.
went back to the dollar
Play-
thing,
play
right? It's
the-
going to cost money to implement
Yeah.
these things, so we'll get to it. Well, CMMC now, you cannot bid until you are that as certified at that CMMC level. So, for instance,
Has that already been put in place? Or is it
it
going to
is
be
being-
next year? In
No,
place?
it's right. It's being put in place
There's
right
7 contracts this year so far that have been let that saying that you have to be at CMMC level 3 right now for some of the bigger boys.
So they are implying it.
now. They're you have
I-
they're
I
done.
said this a
I
few
will
years
almost
ago.
believe it when I see it.
No,
then,
it's
'cause I've
happening.
seen this can kick
Yeah.
down the road every year.
It's
or-
happening.
It
It's
seems like for more than a
Indefinitely.
decade, yeah.
That's why,
the
though.
DICAP
That's why they're
base is
changing
getting
this.
kicked down
Yep.
the road.
Yeah, that is exactly why. So they said we've lost trillions and trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars on intellectual property because
Yeah.
we don't have our stuff.
So
Because we keep on going, yeah, we'll get
A little
there.
bit about the Department of Energy has got the C2M2 with their utilities and the way that they're doing this robust assessments. I mean, how is that impacting the small business community?
Have not
You've
seen much.
that come
No,
through?
no, haven't seen anything on
Yeah,
that.
it was just interjecting with some of the UC Boulder professors, and they were talking about how the renewable energy NREL
Right.
Golden
Right.
has started to come out with many contracts and grant money to support their is basically integration for all that renewable energy into the grid, and the
Right.
smart grid, and its encompassing ideas like the smart city idea. So, and they've got a tremendous amount of emulation to support injecting vulnerability assessments and this C2M2 concept.
It's probably similar. So this is CMMC's DoD only right now, but they envision it going all U.S. government.
State,
So
federal.
that may be a
local.
similar
Yeah, I was thinking, what I'm thinking of is because
DOE
utilities,
side.
we're talking about almost Internet of Things, embedded systems,
Yeah.
something that
Very
might be
much.
slightly different from the context in which DoD
And
might
utilities typically are privately owned too, so
you know.
they could be pushing that on that side.
I know the Department of Agriculture has also got something similar to it as well, but they've got their own concept of it.
I would fully expect DOE to get on board with CMMC level.
No, they
I mean, you think of a power plant,
Yeah.
you could do some massive damage
Oh yeah.
if by taking down our grid. So
Well, and Katie Arrington from OSD, who's heading this whole effort right now, she's a former senator, I think from Georgia. I'm sorry, Katie, if I got the wrong state, but she's the one driving this whole thing. They hired her to run this program, and she was stating that it's going to go U.S. government wide. This is the pilot, if you will, to kick it off and get it moving. It's actually taken them a little longer, like you mentioned. It was supposed to already theoretically, it was supposed to really have kicked in already. I guess
last
it's
year,
now. Well,
Yeah,
last
it was
end
always
of last
last year.
yeah.
it was September of last year is when they're supposed to have
There's
the
something
first
similar to that.
contract let.
Well, the big issue is what a lot of the government contractors are going. Hey, it's going to cost money for us to update all our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to need some funding to help do
And
this.
the
if we're gonna-
smalls. So the small
the
guys,
smalls.
how are they can afford that? Is there going to be a government? Hey, there's a $50,000. Anybody
So-
can take it to get you up to that speed.
So up front, the government's saying they're not paying for you to get your original certification. But after you get your certification, they're saying to maintain that certification, they will allow you to roll that cost into your overhead and get reimbursed for it in subsequent years for your certification.
If you're on an active contract, you can roll
If
that.
you're on an active contract, to win an active contract. Now, there's companies out there. I think you've already talked to them already. Double Dog Cybersecurity, right? They're really designed their entire business model around the small business. So there's some companies out there that are saying, we'll get you CMMC certified. Give us a check for $100,000. We'll have it done in the next 3 months, whatever.
Mhm.
Devil Dog does it a different way. They're doing a subscription-based service where they're making it so small companies can afford it. So they're taking that $100,000, whatever it may be, and getting it down into smaller pieces so they can afford it and pay for it over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the only way that small business are going to be able to do it. I've been on NDIA talks with CMMC folks and on the government side, and they've made comments of, we know there's going to be 40% of the small businesses going out of business because of this, or not going to be able to perform DoD contractor work as a sub either, because if you're a prime, you have to be CMMC certified and your subs. So you have to flow those requirements down, those terms and conditions down.
And the other thing they were pushing though is that they wanted the large companies like Lockheed, Northrop to help the subs to also get up to standard partnerships.
Gotcha.
You know, if you've got subs you typically work with, because we all kind of have partnerships really, that you large companies help the small companies to get up to standard. too.
And normally there's an ongoing relationship with those vendors and
Yes.
that
No,
supply chain.
in all
So-
honesty,
yes.
it's a lot about the there's a hardware side of this thing, but then there's, just like CMMI, the process side, where there's a lot of paperwork.
Do you have the policies in place? Are you, a lot of stuff is, as you guys know, you changing your passwords every 6 months? Are you,
Right.
procedures?
Is it at least
process
256 characters long and never repeat the same number and
He
letter?
couldn't get a password
So-
yesterday.
so,
How many new characters do I got to have?
is this the biggest thing you hear small companies talking about now? in the
Yes.
small?
100%.
Right now,
Cyber,
yes.
100%. Because either they hadn't heard about it yet, or if they have, they're concerned about how are we going to pay for it.
Mhm.
And what does it
Right.
really mean? Like, what are the requirements? So the requirements have been out there for probably 2 years now. They've been kind of farting around with, pardon my French, about getting the right. What are the criteria? And it really goes back to NIST. I mean, really, it's the NIST standards.
It's straightforward,
So-
but it still takes time and money, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're a company that has 10 laptops, right? It goes back to even your hardware that you have. Is your wireless system secure? Is your are you doing port security on your routers? And so there's other
the
companies
different
that
control mechanisms or the
Exactly.
family of
Yeah.
controls.
It's the
that
standard
come
stuff we all
There's-
should be.
there's-
That's their
there's
big gripe. The
framework,
government
right?
says, look, it's stuff you should have been doing.
Yeah, the 800-53
Right.
mechanism, all those controls.
Right.
To,
But there's other companies out there. There's one that we're friends with down in Pueblo. That cyberprivacy.today. They have what they're calling cybersecurity in a box,
Yeah.
which is a very very cost-effective way to get all the hardware requirements done.
That's awesome.
If you're a small business of 0 or 1 to 100 people,
Yeah.
they can come in and they'll monitor your entire network.
Put the box on the wall like in your garage, put it right next to your power thing,
and it takes
everything's run through it, and they come out and they update everything that you
and
need.
if you ever have anybody trying to attack you, they'll call you up 24/7 and say, "Hey, we just saw a hack coming on board.
Yep.
Take a look at this."
Yep.
Well, that's great.
Yep.
That's
So-
what I was looking forward to when they started trying to implement something like this.
Yep.
Is individuals that were coming out to really have some very good ways to support that small business.
Yeah.
So it sounds like people rose to occasion.
That's exactly what it's driving a whole new market. I think really.
I think so. Yeah.
There are quite a few shammers out there. Word of caution to the small government contractors out there. There's guys. Oh, we'll bring you to CMMC level 3. Well, they were saying that, and they hadn't even established the standards yet. What they were. We're like, how can you be claiming that when we don't even know what it is yet?
Contact your local smalls group.
Yeah.
Get together with some people that are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And direct you to it.
There's a lot of
going for a
meetings.
scammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can help point people in the right direction. We do have companies that we help out with. Some of the ones that we already mentioned, we try to push some of these smallest businesses to them because we trust these people, right? We know that they're in exactly
trusted ones.
exactly not somebody because there is companies out there that is charging you $30,000 just to do an assessment of your system.
Yeah,
don't pay that. There's companies out there that will give you a free assessment.
Yeah,
because they want your business. So
if you manage that.
So as we're kind of closing toward the end here, give your
this
your
isn't the 5-hour one? I thought
No,
this
this
was
is
the
the shortened, the abridged version.
The small.
How does somebody get a hold of you? How do they get involved? When's your meetings?
Okay, well, so we're talking about getting meetings back on board here starting in June. We're going to start doing socials again. We're still working networking. Sorry, I don't. Is that social and politically incorrect term again? I don't know.
Networking is 6 foot apart.
Alcohol involved.
You have to wear those big rubber balls.
You know what? We've been talking to our lawyer about this, and people just sign here saying yes. You know the risk. You're an adult. If you want to come. If you don't, stay home. Don't care.
Take the
So you have meetup groups people can sign up for?
No, we just have the
website.
We have a website, www.thesmalls.org.
Smalls.org.
Smalls.org. And then we are going to start having meetings. So if you go to the website, we'll let you know when the meetings are, where we're going to do it. Again, we're just starting to do that now. We do have the weekly podcast. That's also on the website. And we also have, if you sign up for our newsletter, you get a weekly calendar of all the events out there across Colorado and also nationwide now with all the virtual meetings that are going on. You can see kind of the meetings and events that are related to small government contracting.
Awesome.
You can also email us at smallscolorado@thesmalls.org or justnate@thesmalls.org. It's out there. Look us up. Get on the podcast. We're always looking for people on our podcast as well, just trying to focus on small businesses, trying to help each other out.
And reach out to us, too, if you want to get passed along. So we'll do that. Anything there? Final thoughts, Tim?
Sounds like a great choice. I really like the idea behind the smalls.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for joining today. And we look forward. We're going to have these guys on again because this has been a riot.
No, next time it's your turn to come on ours. So.
We're in. All right.
Yeah, we're in.
Have a good evening.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.